Thanks for staying.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for the film. I'm excited to pick your brain a little because I think it's a film full of mysteries that are just begging to be sort of probed and explored further.
Yeah, cool. Mysteries are good. Mysteries are to be probed, not solved. But yes,
Exactly.
let's probe.
Exactly. It's a process. Could you start? I was hoping to start by asking you about the sort of framework or the sort of conceptual framework of folklore and mythology and this sort of realm that can't be understood, but that is in some ways made of stories or made of tell me about folklore and your interest in this sort of folk horror, but maybe not exactly horror model.
Okay, I'll try. Hello again. That's really a big question. Tell me about folklore.
Maybe start with the this question of fairy circles, where.
Well, I can rewind. I can zoom out a bit further. It's okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Is this better? Is that better? What do we like? We like this. Sound is whatever. Yeah. Did it sound okay? You could hear it loud. Thank you for staying with the credits. Like, we did credits very differently. We didn't want to break the tension and have music or something. And the sound designer, Graham, he came to me right at the end of the process and said, hey, I've made something for you. And it was like, this like 7-minute changing soundscape going through the different landscapes of the film. And I thought, okay, this is risky, maybe incredibly pretentious, but let's do it anyway, to give people a chance to just sort of sit back and listen and absorb, because I know it's a cryptic film, so I think it's good to have some time to just listen again. That's the whole message of the film, is like, listen. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Thank you for staying. What was the question?
Fairy circles.
Fairy circles and folklore. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I've always been really interested in folklore. I mean, on a very personal level, my mother is English, my father is Welsh, and the English don't have much connection to their folklore anymore. They do in certain places, not the bit of England where I'm from, but the Welsh certainly do. And we grew up with particular books about fairy tale, like fairies and goblins. And for me as a kid who was particularly introverted and confused by the world, I related a lot to the stories about fairies and goblins, of these little creatures that live in the kind of hidden spaces and try to navigate through a modern world that is not really theirs anymore. And so like, on a very personal level, I just always related a little bit to them. But as an adult, I came back to folklore because I think it's the realm of the unconscious. You've got images that have recurred throughout human history, throughout all cultures. Images of faces that appear between the leaves, or images of portals, veils in nature that if you step through, you are taken to a more connected realm. And the veil is spoken about a lot in folklore of different cultures, crossing the veil, or what's beneath the veil, or behind the veil. And I'm very interested in that veil. And I was asking myself when writing, what is that veil? Like, what does it actually mean to go beyond the veil into the realm of fairy, or the realm of the unconscious, or the realm of the holy, or the sacred, or something? And my take on it is that the veil is shame, the shame that keeps us separate from the truth of the natural world, that all things are connected, all things want life and want protection and want love. Like, again, hippie, I'm a bit of a hippie at heart, and I think stepping across the veil is to remove the shame so you can see what's really inside and what you're afraid of. And I think fairy tales actually do that better than modern stories and better than more complex literary devices. Fairy tales say we are creatures of nature, we are ultimately children of the earth, and it's a reunion. To cross the veil is a reunion with the side of you that you have forgotten, And that's really the journey of the film, I think, is a man who is being called by nature to step across the veil so that he can see what he's been afraid of and then begin to heal it. And the end of the film is really not even the full healing, it's just the sharing. You know, we don't hear what Darcy says, but we know that he's finally ready to share, which for me is the removal of shame. You know? So that's folklore. Sorry, I'm rambling again.
No, that was beautiful.
Okay.
And really cues up my next question, which is, as you were formulating this, the concept, the premise, the approach to telling this particular story via this particular film, when and how did you discover or decide that sound was going to be your way in terms of telling a story that is very much anchored in this one particular sensory sort of vector?
Good question. I think it was when I decided to make actually a few things. When I was researching Welsh folklore, and a recurring theme from fairy sightings in the 19th century was music. That at least in Welsh folklore, the fairies are musical creatures. People would hear this strange beguiling music and they'd follow it deep into the woods. Or they would step into a fairy circle and be transported to the fairy concert or dance, you know. And that felt baked in and natural to base it around music and sound. And in Welsh folklore, you have this concept called arwen, which means, okay, I'll give a short version of this. Arwen means kind of divine inspiration, but also madness. And these people who were touched by arwen were these kind of druid prophets who would be spontaneously taken by the spirit, and they would start singing and rambling, and it would all be sound-based, and they were considered mad, but also they were in a shamanic space. And so in Welsh tradition, there is the line is blurred between madness and divine inspiration, and it would always come out in music. Music hits somewhere very special, you know. Music is unlike other art forms in that music doesn't need to justify itself. Music is because music is, and we require it. So it just feels more natural than any other art form, and I'm really sorry that I ramble a bit. Also, consent. If I can talk about consent a bit. I mean, Darcy is someone who, I don't want to go into deep into the weeds about it, but he's someone that's wrestling with something in his childhood where consent was not given. And I think sound is a really interesting device to talk about that. And it's a line that Daphne says earlier in the film where, with your eyes you enter the world, and with your ears the world enters you. And that was something that a sound design teacher said to me at film school a long time ago, and he meant it in this kind of, it was meant to be fun, but it haunted the shit out of me. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, for me at least, I enter a room and sometimes I'm deeply unsettled, and I can't tell why. And it's because maybe there's an air conditioner next door that's broken, and it creates this feeling of sickness in me, or something in somebody's tone reminds me of something. And anyway, sound doesn't require you to look at it or to choose it. It just comes in, and then it starts to work in you. And I think that's the beauty and the power of music and sound. And for a film that's ultimately about, well, not ultimately about, is about consent in quite abstract ways, but it is. I think sound is the perfect device because it's more ethereal and it doesn't require you to invite it in. It just lets itself into your body. You know, and sound lives in your body because it vibrates, and you know.
I'm curious how you translated these ideas in the process of designing the soundscape of the film, both whether musically or sort of ambiently or both. When you were working with your collaborators on the soundscape, did you speak in terms of these sort of more conceptual, interpretive ideas, or did you have a particular soundscape in mind that you sort of just mapped out collectively?
Yeah, I mean, sound design is really fun because so much of it is actually just trial and error, and it's very tactile and physical. My sound designer, Graham Resnick, is also a filmmaker and a writer in his own regard, and I just moved in with him for a few weeks when we did it, when we did the sound design, and a lot of it was finding the sounds, because how do you make a sound that no one's ever heard before? You just have to you got to create it, and it's not, I mean, there's the sounds of the fairies that are sort of sparkle or shimmer in and out of the sound design. That's a recording of his daughter Stella singing the Barbie Beach House song that we then put into a tape deck and then played backwards and then wackled the tape to make it wobble and then played it backwards and re-record it. It was a very tactile, fun, playful experience. So we were in his garage just making fun sounds and putting them in and processing, and then at some point it all comes together, I guess through his hard work, and it hits that unsettling, strange feeling. But it's very hard to articulate sound. I think a lot of filmmakers get scared of it and don't really go there. And I did find it hard, I mean, to articulate sound. It's funny because language is sound, but yet it's very hard to articulate sound. A lot of it comes in the body. So being in the room was really useful. And the musician, Lucretia Dult, she came on really early, so she composed some of the music before we shot. She had to, because Rosie, who plays Daphne, had to learn how to mime the theremin and how to use all the gear. And so the music was composed partly before we shot and played on set. And that informed also the rhythm of the scenes. And it was great in the edit to have the music basically done, so we could pull out stems and try out different tonalities and intensities and rhythm, and then send them back to Lucretia. She would tweak and then come back. It was all really collaborative, you know?
Sort of experimental almost.
Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, so it wasn't actually that heavy. All the heaviness comes in the writing when I'm alone and I'm having to wrestle with shit, and then it's all very depressing, and then the actual making is a joy, because suddenly you're sharing and you're creating. Yeah.
I'm going to leave time for audience questions, but first I want to ask about Jade Croot, and I think maybe sort of in a counterpoint to this soundscape that is so sort of dominant in the film, you have this really, I think, sort of iconic character in this child who is elusive and provocative and pushes very specific set of buttons in this couple. And I think particularly the performance from Jade Croot is sort of so integral to the texture of the film. Yeah. How did that collaboration come about, and what, when you were on set, what kinds of conversations were you having that resulted in this kind of magical strangeness?
Yeah, she's amazing. She's just a phenomenon, you know? When I wrote the movie, we all agreed this movie only works if the child character works. And it was a long process to find the right actor. We had a specific casting director called Hannah Marie Williams, who's based in Wales, and her job was find the kid. So we auditioned. This is a classic story, you know. You audition 100 or more children, you get lots of tapes. We auditioned boys and girls, trans kids, non-binary kids. Like, we wanted anyone of any gender, any age, up to a point, that could just capture that emotional intensity and nuance, because it couldn't be just the creepy kid we've seen in loads of horror films. Like, Jade's creepy when she switches it on, right? But this is a child that's needy and maybe not actually malevolent. I don't think it's a malevolent character. I think it's not a benign character, but this is just a needy creature. So someone who could play that complexity was hard, and we met so many good actors, and then the classic story is we get to the end of the casting, and me and Hannah, I remember we were outside one day. We're like, we feel like there's still someone out there, some wild card. Like, do you have someone? And she thought back, oh, there was a premiere I went to, and there's a young woman. She's very little, very introverted. She's got something. I'm gonna reach out to her again. And it was Jade, and she sent this audition in, and just it moved me so much, the kind of presence and the intensity she had. And it was a big question, do we cast, she was 25 when we shot it, do we cast a 25-year-old woman as a genderless child from the woods? But you meet this woman, Jade, and she's so versatile and so open, emotionally there, that it was very easy to work with her. And it was just such a scary choice, because the movie doesn't work for some people, because some people cannot look past gender. And they go, it's obviously a woman, hate this. They'll go, well, okay, well, Dev Patel isn't actually a sound engineer, that's okay with you. But it's a woman playing a little boy, so that we're going to lose some people, and we made that choice. But that's been the whole movie. All the way through, I had to make choices. We're going to lose a lot of people with every decision. And that's the kind of risk of making a personal film. So anyway, Jade, on set, her favorite actor is Anthony Hopkins, and her favorite performance is him in Silence of the Lambs. And when we had to dial in, she was like, Bryn, how Hannibal Lecter do you want me to go right now? I'm like, go pretty Hannibal. She's like, I got you, buddy. And then she'd go and just do it. She's so fucking good. She's lovely in person, but like terrifying on stage. Yeah.
I think we have time for a couple of audience questions. If you have one, just raise your hand up high, and then I see one right on the edge here, and there's a mic right.
Hello, my name's Shannon.
Hi.
I obviously want to talk about Dev Patel because he's incredible. Did you approach him, or did he approach you about this? How did that collaboration come around, and how was it working with him?
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, he had no idea who I was. So the film kind of, I wrote the script first, and then I took it to the producers that I really wanted, which was Spectavision, who made Mandy, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Color Out of Space. I just love those guys. And so they got attached first. And the film got developed, and we got the financing, and then we started to look out to cast. And this is a very small movie. I know some people think it's a lot more bigger than it is, but this is a tiny movie we shot in 19 days in the middle of nowhere with a very small budget. And so when we were casting, we thought we're not going to get anyone famous, but let's try. Let's just try and send the script. And so through a casting director that Spectavision knew, we heard, okay, with Dev, I had this list of actors that I really liked, and Dev was top of my list. After seeing The Green Knight, I was like, well, this guy is earthy, he's so vulnerable, the eyes are so, they show this vulnerability, even though it's like he's trapped in a man's body, and I thought, this is the guy. And we sent him the script through this casting director, and I was like, there's no chance he's going to do it. And then I got a call, said, he's read the script really quickly, he loves it, he wants to meet you tomorrow. So I had to talk to my boss. I had a day job. I talked to my boss. I'm like, I need to go to London tomorrow. He was like, why? I'm like, because I'm making a movie and I might quit my job soon. Like, it was, and my boss, Joe, he was so good about it. He was like, that's amazing. I wish you told me earlier. And it was all very stressful. Like, I was like, I can't even afford to get to London. He was like, I'll pay for you to go to London and you can meet him. And it was, the generosity of people along the way has been amazing. That's a whole different story. Anyway, met with Dev. He'd read the script. He loved that it was fucking weird, that it was another step into the woods compared to The Green Knight. The Green Knight is like I love that movie. It's so beautiful and strange. And this was a few more steps into strangeness, and he was into it. And I brought him a book I had from my childhood, which was about fairies and my vision of how the world of fairy works. And he flicked through it, and he got really excited, and he was like, I'm in, let's go, let's do it. And then I had to tell the whole team, yeah, he's in. And they're like, cool, can we afford that? Like, I don't think so. And somehow we made it work. you know? This was never meant to be a movie with a movie star in it. This is a small movie. So it's kind of a weird miracle that we got him. And I thought he did beautiful work on the movie. Like, he's very physical, which I loved. And yeah, he was a great partner. Yeah, just believed in it.
It's a film about belief in a way, in some ways. I think we have time for one more quick question. I saw one hand. Oh, here's one on the side over here.
Hi, my name is Dhwani. Congratulations on the movie. It was fantastic. I'm a screenwriter, and oftentimes I will have ideas that are quite strange or poetic or abstract to like explain thematically. So I was wondering, when you first started pitching this film or sharing it with producers, did you have a log line that was, able to summarize all of this, like capture it, or did you have an elevator pitch that you would, just run through? How did you go about that process?
Yeah. Great question, because if you're writing movies that are not pitchable in that way, it's very hard. I still don't have an elevator pitch for the movie. So what I did was I wrote the movie I wanted to write. I wrote the movie I wanted to watch. I wrote my own favorite movie. That was the goal. Make my own favorite movie. So I wrote it. And then I looked around at other movies made recently that I loved, genuinely loved, and looked at who made those. And that brought me back to Spectrovision, mostly because of the movie Mandy. If you haven't seen Mandy, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful, poetic, strange dream. With them, I never had to turn it into a log line or an elevator pitch because they got it. And that, for me, is the advice I would give to anyone writing something that isn't traditional, is find the people who make non-traditional things so you don't have to bullshit them. So you just give them, here's me, here's what I'm doing. And if they get it, if they don't get it, you move on because they don't get it. That's it. I still can't do an elevator pitch of any movie I write. I only want to make poetic movies with poetic people. And if that's silly, so be it. But they exist, and there are kind, open, excited people out there who want to hear what you have to say in your way. There's not many of them, so you've got to find them. But yeah, that's it really. I think that's my advice. Find the right producer, and you don't have to craft a stupid elevator pitch. Yeah. 2 questions is not very much. Surely we have...
If anyone has a very concise question, I see a hand.
I can also hang around,
Yes,
I've got nowhere to be. I'm here for this, so...
And I'm so sorry, we will eventually have to kick everyone out for the next screening, but we can linger in the lobby as long as we all... But if you can keep it short, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for making your film. As I was watching it, I kept thinking of like those early 20th century ethnomusicologists like Percy Grainger and Bela Bartok, who would go out into the field with like a microphone and make recordings of like folk songs. They'd go into like remote villages and make recordings of folk songs. And I'm just curious, what is the inspiration behind like the professional background of the couple in the film?
Well, it started with Daphne. I'm more interested in kind of mid-20th century electronic music, and what struck me was that it was women pioneering electronic music. All the musical spaces in the mid-20th century were taken up by men, like in the UK at least. If you wanted to be a composer at the BBC, you couldn't unless you were a man. So women like Delia Derbyshire, Daphne Oram, they said, all right, well, if I'm not allowed to compose music, I'm going to compose sound effects. And they just generated their own language of music. And so there's a great documentary called The Sisters of Transistors, which you can look up. That gives you a quick shorthand of these women. And they've just been heroes of mine forever. And I wanted to write a character who would be plugged into that world. And that was a very early starting point with sound, because my big sister is a musician as well, and she explained to me about synthesis and how there are 2 different kinds. There's a synthesis where you sample sounds, and one where you bend electricity to create a tone. And she explained that to me, and I remember going home thinking about it. I thought, well, if you're drawing electricity from the earth and you're bending it into a sound, surely the earth that you're drawing it from, that has an impact. What if the earth you're drawing it from, the energy, is haunted? Or what if it's ancient and it has memories? So that was the beginning point, actually, of the Daphne character, is what if we have this woman who is able to, through her music, accidentally draw the energy from the earth into music, and what happens next? And that was the starting place of why she was that kind of musician. And then later on, as the relationship grew in my writing, I needed a profession where Darcy's character worked for his wife. I wanted him to be like, she's the pioneer, she's the breadwinner, she's the visionary, and he's just trying to keep up. He feels like he's lucky to be in this relationship and just trying to hold on because he actually doesn't have self-love and self-worth. So I needed him to be her engineer or her assistant. So that's how I got into sound recording, field recording, because it was in service of his wife, who was the far more interesting, talented one of the two. Yeah.
I do feel like we could continue for another hour, but in the meantime, thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us.